All right, well, this is Aaron Squire coming to you guys again this week. We've got episode 98. We're calling it Full Steam Ahead. Kind of, I guess. So, tonight on the show, I've got Armiesofmordor stepping up to the plate. He's making it in. We're trying to get a new guest on in 2 weeks. Next week, we're going to be down. I have a work commitment to go to. And tonight, we're going to talk about the awesome Steam announcement that a lot of people are getting pretty excited about. We're going to talk about a couple of the different Hex quality of life things, some Kickstarter rewards that are being rewarded, and then we're going to build a PVE deck, and I'm going to talk a little bit about the deck I should be running tomorrow, which I may or may not be streaming. We'll see. The Singleton, in the Singleton 5 shards format, so I think it's going to be a great show. Armiesofmordor, welcome back to the show. How have things been with you?
Thanks for having me.
Yeah. How have things been with you?
Same old. I've got work tomorrow, so I won't be participating in the Wild Cup.
Wah, wah.
But,
What would you have run if you could have in a Singleton format tomorrow?
Probably I would have played a ramp deck.
Right, so Wild X. So probably Wild Sapphire. I mean, that's basically what I built. I built Wild Sapphire, whatever the Coyotal, what's it, Winter Moon. I built a Winter Moon deck. I mean, I'm sorry. I know like the hate for Winter Moon is very strong right now just because it's everywhere, but it's pretty much, it's even in the Singleton format, it gets even better because you can shuffle cards in and become more consistent, and there's a lot of things in Wild and Sapphire you can do to be really consistent. So, and everyone knows I like consistency.
That Mass Dingler is a really good card.
Yeah, I have that in there too. I have that in there too. So, let's go ahead and do the YouTube giveaway right off the bat. So let's go and flip over to the show screen. We had quite a few people, some good replies this week. Let's count them up. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, Simic 5, and 7, 6. I totally skipped over 6. We have 6 people, so we did not make it to the next dice up. So I'm going to go and roll my dice, and it didn't fall on the floor this week. We've got number 3. Third person down is going to be 3, Stefan. Yes. Reminds me of when I used to watch Urkel, Stefan Urkel. Remember that? You win a draft. Get me your IGN, please. So, again, really appreciate everyone for talking, saying stuff on there every week. Getting on there, giving me some feedback. I want this to be a forum for people that are playing Hex. So, you know, you can also post links out to your decks that you want doctored. If you want to get on the show, you can post to me on the video, or you can, of course, hit me up on Twitter, or, you know, do a lot of different things. So, there we go with that. First item of business today, though, and this, I put this up front so we could spend a decent amount of time talking about it. Hex the Shards of Fate moving to Steam. So what does this mean for Hex? Hopefully it means we're going to get some more people on the game. There's a decent population in the game right now. I venture to say that it's the third. I mean, it's really far behind the top 2 online digital card games. So I still venture to say that it's the third best or third most populous card game that's out there. Armiesofmordor, how do you feel about this switch over?
I think more people is always good for TCG, and as long as we keep the community positive and don't let the negativity that some people might bring to the community, that it'll be fun.
Right. Yeah, I mean, we see that a lot. I've seen that with World of Tanks, especially because early on when it was like World of Tanks, when I was still playing World of Warcraft, I was like, is this a knockoff of World of Warcraft? Like, it was back, that's how early on I was playing World of Tanks, and it was great. And then all of a sudden it started getting more and more popular, and yeah, it's inevitable. You're going to get people that get in there and they become maybe a little bit too competitive. Maybe, you know, their parents didn't, you know, hug them enough or something. I don't know. But if it brings more people in, more population is more better. And that would be good for everyone. The biggest thing I thought about with Steam, and I've said this many, many times, and obviously it's not that big a deal because this is happening, but I just want to make sure it is that the people that are working over at Hex Entertainment are getting paid enough to survive. You know, I don't want my Hex Entertainment engineers and deck builders and developers over there. I don't want them to starve. So I would prefer that, you know, if Steam is going to take too much money out of their pockets for when they're doing all the microtransactions within the game, that they not do it, and hopefully still be successful, because obviously other game companies can do that. Companies like, they're really big, like Riot and Blizzard, etc., etc. So I hope that it was going to be that big, but another thing you might look at this and you might say to yourself is that there's a lot of games on Steam that it feels like they go there after it is that they are dying. So I hope that that's not another thing that people are looking at. I hope that we're on an upswing more than a downswing. So that's the only other thing I look at when I see them going to Steam. They're definitely trying to spread out the wealth of people.
If you continue to download the game from your client that you have now, Steam shouldn't get any money from you. It's only if you connect your Hex account to Steam that Steam will take revenue from Hex. So if you just play the game like you normally do and you don't connect it to Steam, then they'll get as much money from you as they were before. And they only take a percentage of the people that play through Steam, so it's not like they're losing revenue.
That's true. That's true. Yeah, you continue. I mean, I was just agreeing.
Yeah. It just means that if we get a whole bunch of new people that only play the game because they saw it on Steam, yes, they might be giving less revenue than if they had found the game the other way, but that's just the cost of doing business, you know, customer acquisition costs.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I can definitely see that side of the business model there. The other thing that might entice more people to move to Steam, on the other hand, is if they decide to add in Steam achievements, and we haven't heard about that. But I can't see why they wouldn't do that. Smite has put Steam achievements in their game, which I'm surprised that's on Steam.
Steam achievements are fine and dandy, but I don't really care about Steam achievements. Right. I'd rather have my achievements that are tracked on my cards than random Steam points. Yeah.
Yeah, the double back that we're still on the edge of our seat waiting for, maybe in the next PVE expansion. Who knows? Moving on to the next piece of news for Hex. We've got patch Thursday, April 7th. So I haven't patched my client, and the first thing I did see that came through my Twitter feed yesterday during the patch was that spectral lotus trees, those
acorns,
or acorns rather, acorn tree things, those aren't in the game. So they did have
they are in the game. They just haven't given it to us yet. You can see them in the client. They're just not finished yet. Like, they still have a few bugs to work out, but you can actually see them in the game.
Oh, that's cool. There's that, and then they're adding a lot of quality of life, different things here. It says it has the your turn, which pops up. Have you experienced this? Is this a good thing? Do you feel?
I think it's fine. It definitely, for new players, is a large indicator that it is your turn now. Like, it's not too big that it's like in the way or that it's going to be annoying. It's just they've added a lot of quality of life things, probably so that when people see it for the first time on Steam, it's a lot more self-explanatory.
Yeah. It also says you can use F4 to toggle all attackers on and off, which I think you could do before, so I'm not sure. I guess they're just putting it up there in case you didn't know, type of thing.
It might be that, because before you had to hit F5 to go to attack step, and then hit F4 to attack with all. I haven't tried it yet, but maybe if you hit F4, it'll just go straight to attack step and attack with all.
True.
In one button rather than two buttons, but I'm not sure about that. Maybe someone in chat can enlighten me.
Next piece of news. I didn't read through all of this. I've had quite a busy week with. I'm still trying to get a new intro built for the game, for my channels and different things on YouTube. But and that's hopefully we're going to get fully rendered by the end of this weekend. But there's a bunch of different Dream equipment that changed, and the main thing that I saw in this article was that Dream equipment that was being used before allowed shards to do things that they typically can't do, which is a big no-no, because your deck shouldn't be able to handle everything. Like, if you're in Blood, you should have a problem with constants and artifacts. You shouldn't just be able to put on a piece of equipment and then be able to deal with those things. Like you should have a hard time with those things. That's mostly what I got from this. Did you get a chance to read through this article, Armies?
Yeah, basically what they did was they made it so that the Enter the Dream deck doesn't do like turn 1 kills anymore.
Right.
So you can still play a Dream deck and it'll still be fine. You just can't throw in every single Dream card with every single piece of equipment.
Right. Yep. Next one is the promo Kickstarter rewards for all the people that are doing promo Kickstarter stuff. I don't even remember Moment of Glory. I remember the rest of these. I don't know that I really want to read through a lot of this stuff. It's a lot of PvE equipment and things. We do have a really interesting deck doctor I kind of want to get some extra time on tonight because we're building a 100-card deck tonight. But it's kind of exciting to see this stuff in the game. I don't know that these cards have even changed that much. I haven't really paid that much attention, so I don't know. I'll have to try them out. It's just a good thing to see this stuff come into the game. And you're not really a PvE player, though, right, Armies? So this stuff.
I'm a dungeon crawler.
Oh,
so
you are a dungeon crawler. So
I've already used some of these, and I'm already pretty. Like my favorite one at the moment is the Crowd Roars with the equipment for the, I believe it's the weapon slot. It basically is ridiculous.
Or Rending Hammer. Rending Hammer.
Rending Hammer, yeah, Rending Hammer. It's so good.
Your card's named The Crowd Roars instead have draw 3 cards. Those cards you can play these for free at the end of the turn. If this is in your hand, discard them. Okay. So if you draw shards, then it's basically a dead card, but that's fine because
you filtered 3 shards out of the top of the deck.
That's still really good. So I mean, typically Ruby doesn't get to draw a lot of cards. It seems like that seems to be the way that Ruby gets to draw cards is they draw cards and it's like use it now or never. That seems to be their
or it lets the opponent draw cards too.
Right. That's true. That's very true.
But yeah, so the way I've been using this was in my Mono Ruby Elf ramp deck. I can play this on turn 2. So I was playing it on turn 2, and I would draw into like Warbot Dropship with speed on the equipment. So I was playing through the Wictor dungeon, the really scary last final boss. Turn 2, I played that. And I got a Warbot Dropship, and I attacked with it, and I got 2 Warbots. Turn 3, I attacked with the Warbots and the Warbot Dropship, and then turn 4, I Gore Feasted with 4 Warbots and a Warbot Dropship, and my opponent was dead. So
there you go. That's how you do it.
Yep.
Next Hex update, more of that polish. So basically, they're just saying that they're polishing up, and they're giving out Kickstarter stuff, and so hopefully we'll see that again this weekend. We've got the 5 shards. Wild Cup series, which is a singleton series. So if you don't know what that means, you get to only have one of any card, and that includes shards, by the way. So that makes your deck much more difficult to play. They are giving away 250 Armies of Myth booster packs, so that's really a big deal. It's sponsored by Dragonborn, the Dragonborn Guild, so you can still sign up for it. I'll be signing up for it a little bit later tonight. The deck that I'll be playing tomorrow, I'll tell you, is I wasn't original. I basically went and I built a Wintermoon deck for tomorrow's tournament, and I just felt like Sapphire lets you draw cards. Did you put Servant or Shathak in it? And I didn't put Servant in there because it just, I didn't see that being actually that great of a card. Because it just feels like Servant is a card that I want to play 4 of because I need to have it in my opening hand. And if it's not in my opening hand and I draw it late, it's really bad. You know what I'm saying? So that's why I didn't put it in there. But I wouldn't fault anyone for doing so, or for playing Mono Sapphire and playing it and for trying to play more tempo type of a deck. But that's the deck that I put together for tomorrow. So hopefully, if I don't get to stream it tomorrow because I'm having some issues with my ISP, then I will eventually get it up on YouTube, so you will be able to see it out there. And you told me what you were going to play, and so...
no, I told you what I would play, but I'm not actually playing.
Right, but you're not actually playing. So the deck for tonight is a PVE Cleric deck. So we haven't done too many PVE decks lately. So I know that even though tomorrow is a singleton format, we could have built a singleton deck. There's a lot of singleton type stuff that's going on in PVE anyways. I might just take a screenshot and post it out on Twitter later if you're curious as to what I built. So if you want, you can copy me and whatever. tomorrow. That's pretty much what I do on the show most of the time. And I have had some people have had some pretty good results with things that I built or things that are close to them. But this deck is going to be a PvE deck in the Cleric, and he says he's level 6, so that means he gets an extra rare, and luckily Armiesofmordor is here to help me through this. Just so everyone's aware, in PvE, things are much different. You don't get a 4 of a kind for every card right off the bat. You can't play 4 of a kind of everything. Instead, they have a basically a way of making it so you only get so many of each rarity. So for the most part, you get 3 of every common that you can put in your deck that you own. You have 2 of the uncommons, and then 1 rare, and then 1 legendary that you can put in your deck for each. So I can only have 1 extinction, which is rare, for instance. I can only have 1 extinction, and I can have another rare, but it has to be different. See how that works? So I believe that armies, you said I get an additional rare at level 6, right? Is that what you said? In each shard type?
I believe you actually get it at 5, but yeah.
5, but yeah, so we'll have an additional rare to work with for this deck. Now we do have to keep this somewhat cheap because this is a free-to-play player, so we're gonna be mindful of that. He's trying to build a 100-card deck, so that's the challenge, because when he does that, he has 100 cards in his deck. He gets access to one of his cool Cleric talent points, which Armiesofmordor, go ahead and lighten us on that one.
It's not actually a talent. It's the charge power normally puts 2 blessings into your deck when you use it, but if you have a 100-card or more deck, it'll add 4 blessings instead.
Right. So,
some of the other races have more things that happen with 100-card decks, but Necrotic don't.
Right. And so this is a Necrotic Cleric. He does have access to all the shards except for Wild, so if we want to, we could swap out an entire shard. So let's look at... So right off the bat, he only has 60 cards in here, even though he said he was trying to build a 100-card deck. The curve is somewhat atrocious. When I thought about what I would do if I had to build a 100-card deck, the first thing I thought about was removal. I really want to have a reasonable amount of removal, and then I wanted fixing and maybe some ramping in here. So cards that ramp me, like that also deck thin me, I think would have been decent to have in here, like your Tear of the Goddess, and then there's some other ones as well that I think they're just easy, cheap cards that you can get a hold of easily. Armiesofmordor, which way would you go with this type of a deck?
Well, he said he wanted to take advantage of clerics, so I'd probably look and see, like, I'd first look at all the clerics and then see what's the best. Because normally when I've played cleric decks that had diamond in them, I would always play Scrivener and Righteous Paladin, and because those are both clerics and they have great synergy with each other. And there's some other good clerics like Corrupt Harvester and things like that. It's just a matter of getting to 100 cards with commons and uncommons mostly, and a couple of cheaper rares.
Right, exactly. I think so too. So yeah, we'll go ahead and do that. We'll go ahead and look at all the clerics first and see what we can get in the deck. So right now I'm just filtering my stuff so it's going to be easier for us to look at. We're just going to turn on the blood, the diamond, and the shard list, and we're going to look at all the clerics. And he has a lot of these already in the deck. So he's already got his 2 Bastions of Adamanth, and that's a pretty good okay card. Duskwing Reclaimer might be an okay one to get. Miriam might be a little bit more difficult to get. It looks like this is, it's what is this? Auction house is $1. Is that right? That seems like it'd be higher.
She's a bulk rare. Nobody plays her in any competitive constructed deck. So
yeah, but at the end of the turn, all your troops and crypts that die this turn, put them back into play. She's really difficult to get rid of because of her toughness. So, I mean, that's a consideration, I guess, for a deck like this. Maybe as a one-of, you could pick her up. And she's also going for only 16,000 gold, so that's like one solid arena run. You could pick her up, maybe.
2 to 3 arena runs.
2 to 3? Okay.
Unless you're a dungeon crawler, then you could do it in 2.
Right. So we've got Lady Elizabeth, another one you could pick up. I think you can just get her by playing the campaign, possibly. So that seems like a pretty solid cleric to get if you can get one. We're not seeing any auction house info on her, so she's not getting sold in the auction house. So I'm not sure where she comes from.
She is played in the King Gabriel deck only.
Oh, so we can't. We don't have access to her.
Yeah, that's correct.
Oh, that's unfortunate. Alowin's another one that just doesn't get to see a lot of play, and so he is also. He's only two. He's only 2 pennies, or I'm sorry, 38 cents. 38 cents, 5,000 gold. That's a reasonable one we could put in there, and he's gonna buff our dudes. So maybe we'll go with like one of him, maybe for now.
Sure.
Yeah.
He sees play in the cleric decks. I've seen him before.
Defiler of the Fallen. When a power is shifted onto a troop you control, it gets unblockable this turn. That seems pretty solid.
That one is comes from chests, so you probably don't want to have it in a free-to-play.
Right.
Because you have to spin a chest, open it, and it basically open packs unless you buy the chests.
Yeah, I mean it's another one where it's showing for 329 gold, so I mean that's reasonable. It's only PVE, so that seems like something we could maybe do, maybe not. It depends on if it's on the auction house or not, really. Let's see, Lord Adam he's a solid 4/4 if you have him. One of the bigger clerics though that you should have in a deck like this is probably Paladin of Necropolis. He's a solid cleric that's uncommon, so we definitely want 2 of this guy.
Especially because every cleric in this deck gets life drain, so.
Right. The Gemstone Feeder can give the life drain over to something else. I wonder if that
you don't need it because all your
probably
troops
don't
are
need
gonna have life drain anyway.
Yeah. The Paladin has that secondary thing, so even though we're missing out on, because everything gets life drain anyways, every time we gain health, the opposing champion loses 1 health. So it doesn't matter how much health, they only lose 1. So that's just something to keep in mind.
Yeah, it's all about the amount of triggers, not how much you gain.
Paladin of Necropolis. Oh, this is the same card. This is an
It's the AA version.
It's the AA version. I was like, what is this? Okay, Grim Harvester's another one. I'm skipping over Fentio because I know that he is. This is
the opposite of budget.
This is the exact opposite. He's a $20 card. I don't see a free-to-play player picking this guy up. He is a cleric. He'd be amazing to put in any deck that you're playing. I've played him in a Shinhair Blood Diamond deck that was a mage. So obviously he's going to work in any deck. I put him in a Spiders deck. So Grim Harvester, though, is another great one. Deals the damage when you can actually end games with him. If you have enough dudes in play, you can just deal damage to your opponent by sacrificing dudes. And he can sacrifice himself to deal damage as well. Swift Strike doesn't hurt.
I don't believe he can sack himself. He can only sack other troops.
Oh, you're right. Yeah, sack another troop. But the Swift Strike's definitely going to help. The computer's gotten a lot better at understanding what Swift Strike is. It didn't used to be as good as it is now. There's an AA over there, so we're not going to worry about that one. Moving on, Hatchery Cultivator is, I mean, we're not really building eggs, so I don't see it. It's nice. The toughness is nice on it, though. The 2/4 with the toughness, and we're getting life drain. I mean, but it would push us into Sapphire, so that's probably a no-go. What do you think?
It's really more for the Venom deck.
Yeah.
Like, this deck won't have any way to make eggs, so it's really just a 2/4 for 3. And it'd be splashing another color for it.
Not really a big fan of this Priestess of Light because I just feel like the body is just substandard for what we're getting. Yeah, it feels like this might... If this was going to go in a deck, it would go in some sort of combo deck that plays a bunch of dudes, and then they gain life, I guess. But that's definitely not our deck. Clergyman's fine. Wind Whisperer is... maybe. Gareth K, though, I mean, he could definitely go in here, and everybody's got this guy, except that he's in Sapphire, so not so much. I keep looking at stuff, and I'm like, oh, yes. Oh, but no.
I mean, you can play this as a 5-resource deck. Yeah, you can just be playing Shard Call and some of the dual shards and things, and then you can play Lixil and stuff like that, but that's really it.
The Sun's not going to work. Gortezuma is another one that it's a reasonable price-ish, and he's around. He sees some play in Constructed, but he just never really... he hasn't seen any top 8s or top 16s that I know of. So
maybe in set 4.
Maybe in set 4, but
because Blood Ruby is a supported archetype, so it's possible that we might get an Orc deck again.
The big issue you're probably going to have with Gortezuma is that it's nice because you can drop him on turn 2. He's going to get you life, which is awesome, but in order to get him to be invincible, you're going to need to get your AI opponent below 10 life, and a lot of AI opponents are starting with 30, and some of them are like above 40 life. So that might be
most of the campaign bosses don't have that much life.
I've seen the one though in the desert. Man, that thing's a beast. That thing's
well, that's the queen. That's an optional encounter, so
yeah.
You don't have to ever do that one unless you want the card that she drops.
So this is pretty sweet though. We can basically return one of a random troop to our hand with mysticism. That's okay. It's a 1/4.
Also only played by the computer.
Oh, okay. Thank you. I wish
you should probably turn on collectible on the
maybe that's what
TCG browser.
Okay, that'll help out. That'll help us out a lot. Next, we've got Sunseer would be a reasonable one to throw in here ish. It'd be all right.
It's not worth playing. All your stuff has life drain anyway.
Yeah, that's true. So probably not. Let's see. We've got the Hatchery Priest. It's gonna not really do very much unless we were gonna play spiders. So probably not that one. He's got Scrivener, and then he's got Chimera Guard Officer is the other option. So we really don't have a lot of options as far as how many clerics we can put in this deck right now. So hopefully this will get better later.
Well, I mean, again, you don't have to play 2 colors.
Right.
And you only need so many because you're also going to be playing actions and stuff. So, like, I don't know how many you added into the deck. But
well, we added a couple. I'm looking to see if there's any other clerics we could put in here. We've got Tatalka, Callous Awakener. You got Zykloi, who's the Highland cleric. I mean, most
those
of the
are all
stuff
double thresholds, though,
yeah,
so it's more difficult.
It looks like I would prefer to stick with the double, with just the 2 shards in a deck like this, but you could try to play 5 shard and play a bunch of necrotics and play the necrotic. If you had the 4 necrotic shards to play in here, I could see that maybe being a thing. Probably, if anything, you'd probably go into Sapphire first, though, so you could play a bunch of the Venom clerics. Yeah. Let's go ahead and turn that stuff back off. Figure out what we're going to do, how we're going to get this up to 100 cards. 100 cards is a lot. Okay. Let's see. So let's figure out how many shards we probably want in here. Probably like, what, 45 shards in here? You think?
24 in a 60 card deck and 40 more cards. So
I would typically go high.
36 to 40. 45 would be high. I think 40 would be fine.
40 would be fine. Okay, well this is taking forever. If I put 20 of these, and we'll just go 20 of the other ones. I know this is going to take a lot because we're just looking at so many cards right now. We also need to fill out our curve. So we're at 79 cards. We actually need to add another 21 cards to the deck. So obvious choices are kill.
Is kill not already in the deck?
It's not in the deck. So kill needs to be in here. We've talked about this at length. It's a common card for one thing. So it's kind of a big deal. You can play 3 of them. It kills pretty much everything. Most of the things that the computer is going to play. You can even tailor a lot of your fights and just take it out if for some reason you're playing an all artifact computer deck. But yeah, other removal cards we're probably going to look at are the Exile one from Diamond.
Interconflict is amazing equipment as well.
Yep, you're right. Interconflict does have some stupidly good equipment. Could also play a lot of discard and other things in here as well to just try to hold out until we get something going on with our deck. Let's see, what else have we got that we can add in here? I mean, you could probably play like the Royal Diplomat in here if you wanted to. He's a cleric.
Yeah, I have him in mind. He's totally fine as a Rage Swift Striker. It's like, and then he gets life drained from being a cleric. Basically a 4/4 life drain Swift Striker for 5 resources. Seems pretty good.
Yeah, for sure. I just missed him though. I just lost him. Oh, there he is. So, and we can play 2 of them because he's uncommon.
Yep.
And he just disappeared again. Not sure what just happened. He just disappeared. Something happened. All right, I'm just going to look up Cleric to put him in here. Was he at the top? I'm messing it up right now. There he is, Royal Diplomat. We'll put 2 of those in there. All right, we're getting closer, but again, we need to really worry about our curve. I need to go over 100 cards so I can bring it down to 100 cards is what needs to happen. So Extinction would be nice if he can afford it. If you can afford Extinction, you want to have Extinction. Having that board is really
I wouldn't want Extinction
you
for
wouldn't
PvE.
Want it?
Not for PvE. You have so many troops in your deck. It's never gonna be good.
Yeah.
It's better just to have spot removal and win on board for this kind of deck.
Angel of Dawn, another good one, of course, to play in any type of diamond deck. It really doesn't matter PvE or PvP if you have the money to spend on something like that. But again, trying to keep it low right now. Trying to get low right now. Killipede, another one you could play in here. Any of the vampires you could play in here. Wakizashi is another favorite of mine just because it's just decent removal. So I like to play it. Plus it's a body that does block things once in a while.
Does he have Incantation of Righteousness?
I haven't seen it. I'll look it up.
Because I find that card is like the best rare for this kind of deck. Since everything has life drain.
This is a little pricey. For some reason, it's
gone up because of PvE.
Yeah, so this would be a great one to put in here too, if you have it. It's a rare card, so we'll just put 1 in here. If he doesn't have it, then you can replace it with something else. It's 2, so it fills in that 2-point range fairly well. So let's put the Exile. Definitely want Solitary Exile. It's another uncommon that you're going to want to have. We actually put this on our top commons 2 episodes, or uncommons, last week, right? We talked about this last week. So that's an easy in for the deck.
Yep.
You can put 2 of those in there. It removes pretty much everything. It just does it at basic action
speed. Yeah.
So you have to do it on your turn during your first or second main phase. So that's the only problem with it. Let's see. What other artifacts are there that we could throw in here? Besides the ones the cantripping ones, or the ones that fix you and ramp you. Those are probably most of the ones you're going to play in here. Let's see. Building PvE. Another one is Inquisitor. Inquisitor is... I would probably buy this before I would buy that Incantation just because it's good for everything and it's $2. It's cheaper. $2.90.
Yeah.
Inquisitor is just good for everything. Everybody needs 4 Inquisitors in their life.
I don't know about 4.
Illusion's Parade's still pretty good for a deck like this. Let's see, what else have we got that we could do? We could just look at things that have life drain, because I'm sure there are plenty of clerics that don't have life drain to help out.
Well, all clerics do, so you would just want other cards that aren't clerics if you want them to have life drain.
I'm saying life drain that, you know what I'm saying? Life drain that, oh, yeah. Vampiric Kiss might not be too bad to have in here as removal. We could definitely play 3 of those, and that also works with our cleric theme of trying to drain life.
Yep.
Corpse Fly is another great one we talked about as a must common for all new players. It's going to especially help versus the computer, especially when the computer's drawing cards, which it does from time to time with certain decks.
Elegy of Death is a PvE card that could go in this deck too.
Eulogy?
Yeah. Elegy.
Elegy?
ELEGY.
Why do they call it? Why didn't they put a U in there? Looks like it's uncommon, so we could play 2 of these. What does this say? This is Target troop in your crypt, if that troop shares a class with you, put it into play, otherwise put it into your hand. So that, yeah, that definitely works. How hard is it to get a hold of one of these?
I think you actually get them for free in the campaign from one of the mushroom houses.
We have, yes, we do have Righteous Paladins for sure. He already put those in there. So we've got to kind of like build it up and then whittle it down. That's my typical way of building decks. And it's got to come up. All right, so let's put 2 of these in there. It's a basic action, so you only get to use it once. Eulogy is not elegy. Yeah, it is not. Some of the other obvious choices for blood are Inquisition. Inquisition's just another auto-include in a lot of blood decks. This doesn't have to be any different, really. Looks like we're stalling out. We may be adding too many cards for Hex TCG browser to keep up with right now. Yeah, I'm actually thinking about getting rid of metal just because it's nice, but at the same time, it depends on how easy it is to get our troops back, honestly. In some situations, we won't have the body to put it on. So that's when I have to be really... I'm really careful about buffs because I've had it so many times where I get 2 for 1s and it puts you so far behind. Yeah, you end up in really bad situations. What's the other one? We have Inquisition, and then the one that gets rid of cards but not troops. It is
Withering Touch.
Withering Touch, yes. Withering Touch is another auto-include for a deck like this. I don't know of a PvE deck, too many of them that don't run like non-troops. So actually, I should probably just spell it out. I spelled it wrong. It's like public spelling. I spelled it wrong again. Did I spell it wrong? I can't spell today.
Just put in touch. It'll come up.
You got the touch. It's public spelling right now.
WITH.
We can only put 2 of these in because they're uncommon. Another great one to have is Chaos Key. Chaos Key has really fallen out of favor in the constructed scene just because it's so... there's pretty much more efficient ways, things that work. But Chaos Key is it would be like another exile card is really what it is. So this isn't a bad one if you can get a hold of one. For 50 cents, I mean, it's not bad. Or let's see, 4,000 gold. And I feel like that's reasonable for most people.
You could play Contract Killing. That's another PvE card you get from the Killipede encounters.
That's a pretty sweet one. Yeah, 0 cost, especially in a deck like this where
you're gaining 1,000,000 life.
Yeah. Yeah, I could definitely see that being a thing. It's another rare card, so we can only have one of that. We're at 104 cards right now.
You can have 2 of them.
We can have 2 of them? Okay. Oh, because we're at level 6.
Yeah. It's Legends we can only have 1 of.
Okay. Legends of the Hidden Temple, which apparently is becoming a movie. Isn't that crazy?
Is it really?
Yeah. I'd rather they just make the show again, but I don't know. They don't listen to they don't listen to Squire over here. What's the other one where we discard cards? It's
Arachnophobia.
Arachnophobia. Yeah, Arachnophobia is another classic one that you can play, and chances are you'll get some of those spiders. So more discard, more better. That's less things you're going to have to deal with, and hopefully you can get to the later game. Finish this up with some artifacts that we're going to put in here. So I'm just going to look at shardless stuff. Some of the 1-cost artifacts that we can throw in here to just smooth out the 100-card deck and make it a little bit easier for us to play things. So let's go PV. So we got shardless, and I'm going to go cost is going to be 0 or 1.
Yeah, Fentio's Gift is not a bad card, Stewie.
Yeah, that wouldn't be a bad idea.
You would have to grind, a few copies from playing the Venom campaign a couple of times to level 3, but
So I probably wouldn't play Adaptable, but I would play Bottled Vitae. It's going to gain you a life and a charge. That seems pretty sweet in PvE. Immortal Tears is an obvious choice. It's going to deck thin us and help us fix our shard base. We are playing some expensive stuff, so having resource optimizing device is another one which I feel like it's reasonably good to have in a deck like this. We can definitely play 3 of those as well. Those are the cards I would want to play in here. On top of that, we want to get shards in here, so we'll probably play our Shards of Fate. We'll play the 4 of those. And if I can hopefully get 4 of these in here. Let's say 4. And then Shards of Retribution. This is another one. Basically, any of the dual shards right now from set 2, if you're a new player, you need to get a hold of these. This might be a little bit pricey. 28 cents is not too bad, and then 3,000 gold. And I think even the PvE campaign is giving you some of these, right? Are they, or are they not?
I think they give mostly commons.
Okay, so you don't get... I know you get a playset of Shards of Fate by doing the PvE campaign. I know you get that. So, but yeah, you definitely want to have your playsets of these, because this is going to help you smooth out your draws and get to the shards you need to get to.
Do you have Shard Call on the deck?
Do I have Shard Call? I do not have Shard Call. That wouldn't be a bad idea either. We gotta turn off some of this stuff so we can find it. Okay, so Shard Call. There's Shard Ward. And here's Shard Call. We got about 16 minutes to whittle down this deck after we put a ton of different things in here. It's another one we could play 3 of. I don't know that I would want to play 3 Shard Calls, just because all it does is it doesn't deck thin us. That's my big thing with Shard Call. And we were already playing 40. We're playing 40 shards. I need to reduce the shards first because we put extra shards, so I need to take those down by 8. Let's see here. Another thing we talked about before the show started was the fact that you get an extra mulligan. So what does that mean to us, really? You know,
that we can throw away hands with way too expensive things, not enough shards, or cards that are just bad in the matchup. You can just ship them back and try for better.
Yeah, exactly. In the PvE, you have a lot of no harm, no foul. No one's going to get mad at you, really, for even just ending the match in some situations and then restarting it.
I've done that plenty. Keep a 2-shard hand, never draw another shard, and just forget it.
Speaking of shards, I'm not even seeing our shards in here. I'm only seeing the Shards of Retribution, the Shards of Fate, unless I'm skipping over them. I'm not even seeing the shards in the deck.
Do you have collectibles still checked?
Oh, that's what it is. That would be why. There we go. So yeah, we need to take these down. We'll take four out of each of these. Or maybe I'll just accidentally remove the entire shard. Okay, let's get blood shards back in there. Okay, we need to put 16 blood shards. Uncheck that. Blood shards. Where are they? Where are those blood shards? There they are. Let's put 16 of those back in the deck. I should really just use the numbers on my number pad. This is tough. This is a tough challenge. I mean, 100 cards in a deck, it makes me feel bad.
Well, I mean, you could always go to 150 and be like, play Jankbot too. Why not?
Yeah, that is true. That's very true. You could do that. Of course, if you did that, you only get 2 Jankbots. So
yeah, it's not quite as good when
it's not
you're...
definitely not as good as it is playing constructed. Once
we get higher levels and we can get 4 rares in all your decks, then you can play Jank everything.
I'm going to go ahead and refresh the page so we can get a good idea of what our curve is doing right now. And honestly, like, I think we want a lot of things that are in the 1 through 3 range. And so we want to be careful when we get up into these higher ranges. So we've got a lot of that. The curve is kind of atrocious. 24 1-drops and then 10 2-drops and then 3 drops goes up. But the things in our 1-drop range, all these artifacts are going to catapult us into some of these other ranges. So that might make it okay. Some of the things, again, like I'm not a big fan of playing metal in here. Even a one of, I mean, I guess it's okay if you wanted to, you could, but I'm not a big fan of playing metal or bravery, because bravery we're trying to play as removal, but we're in blood, and blood has some of the best removal that we can get to, so I think we can safely remove bravery from the deck. Form ranks is one of the cards we're trying to build the deck on, so this one, yeah, it's basically going to buff all of our troops, and we can do this as a quick action. So this is much better than bravery.
Especially with the equipment, because it gives +2/+2.
Yeah, I mean, that's pretty sick. And they keep it. So
yep.
I think that's much more acceptable than playing bravery. We also, again, with every buff, we need to actually have troops to put it on. So keep that in mind when you're looking at this stuff. Killblade, I feel like if we were running Shin Hair, that's another one where we would want to run just more Shin Hair to make this happen. So I really don't see this as being a thing for us either, so I'm going to remove those. And we all know my feelings on metal. I mean, I guess if you put metal on the Killblade, then that's kind of a combo, but
in a 100-card deck, it's not as likely to happen.
It's not very likely. We need our cards to be standalone pretty good by themselves, so just keeping that in mind. Like our Righteous Paladin, just good by itself, and then hopefully we can gain some life and it gets bigger and bigger. Or like Adaptatron.
Adaptatron is like one of the best PVE cards. Like, you can just make your whole deck about Adaptatron.
I mean, obviously, if you had Living Totem, like, you would also play that in here because you can give it life drain, and you know, it definitely works with the deck.
The equipment for it is pretty good too. It like gives whatever buff that you give it to your whole team.
We don't really have any. I don't think we have any special healers right now to answer the question from Tim Lagore in the channel. I'm trying to see what else can we get rid of here. We're at 112. I mean, we only have to get rid of 12 cards out of this 100.
Could probably cut Alwyn. I don't think we ended up really going that route.
I mean, we really actually needed to play a bunch of things that were 4 or more for this, and so yeah, I think that's pretty safe. And also, this is a rare card, so that helps our buddy out too. I actually am okay with Atrophy being in here. I'm okay with anything that draws me a card. I'm okay with in a deck that's 100 cards. You know, because we really need drawing cards is going to help us be more consistent, and this definitely does that for us. So I'm okay with this being in here, but
we were going to cut Zombie Vulture, right?
Oh yeah. So he's got Zombie Vulture, but then he's got equipment to go with it. So let's see if the equipment makes it any better. It says your Zombie Vultures have when another troop dies, this gets +1 attack. Yeah, I mean, it's all right.
What equipment slot is it?
It's in his bottom one on here, which is, what is this? This is a weapon slot.
So the Inner Conflict weapon is the...
Yeah, I think that might actually be better. So let's get Inner Conflict back in. I didn't even put it in here.
Yeah, Inner Conflict weapon is the one that makes it so that whatever your Inner Conflict randomly battles one of their other troop, well, one of their troops, it can even battle itself, which I really wish it wouldn't battle itself. But
yeah,
you know,
yeah, you put it on something strong and it starts killing the rest of their field. I mean, that's fairly strong. So I feel like we can get rid of these Zombie Vultures. It's not really doing too much for us.
I really like having my equipment on commons in decks like these because commons are what you have the most of, so you have a better chance of having the effect trigger.
Yeah, I think I'm going to reduce the Atrophy by 1 just because I did say I'm okay with it being in here. So it does do some things, but at the same time, like, it's only -1/-1, so it's probably not going to kill stuff. It's mostly going to, you know, just push us through the deck a little bit and draw that extra card. So it's all right, but yeah, it's not overly amazing. Let's look at this builder bot and try to figure out why this is in here. Presenters play, create a random artifact to put it in your hand. And that's kind of cute, I guess, but we're not, like, if I was going to play builder bot, I want to play
I would want the
Sapphire.
Equipment. Well, I would want the equipment because it puts the random artifact into play.
Right. I mean, and I want to play Sapphire because I want a deck where it is that I can, like, bounce this to my hand by doing it myself and then keep playing it over and over again. So I really don't see this as being a thing in this deck either, so we're going to remove that guy. Let's see, what else? What else can we... Where are we at right now? We've got 110. We're going to get rid of 10 cards. We've got 7 minutes to do it. The curve is actually, I don't know, maybe looking better. I'm probably going to end up getting rid of some of these artifacts that I threw in there because they don't actually do anything. They mostly just try to make the deck more consistent.
What other equipment is he using?
He's got a cowl here. Oh, hold on. It's not responding. The webpage has stopped. The show has stopped. Oh boy, I hope it comes back. I might have to look it back up with another. Okay, hopefully. It's always exciting, right? He's got the Corrupt Harvester equipment, so it can't be blocked except by artifacts, troops, and blood troops. Isn't that? I thought it was just unblockable.
I think it has some other equipment. Hold on, I have it in here. Let's see. It has Rage 1 is the equipment.
Oh, okay.
And then the other equipment is the chest slot. When it deals damage, you can void a troop in the opposing crypt and gain a permanent resource.
Yeah, he's got the Reaper's helm on here, so that's fine. That's great. That's actually really good. So, and he's got his other equipment there as well. Let's see what this rumors So this is a really expensive card. That's what I see on this first. But put all troops in opposing crypts into play under your control. Troops get speed, and at the end of your turn, sacrifice this turn. I don't know. I mean, maybe it feels like this is going to sit in your hand, and you're just going to die most of the time, unless you're ramping into this with wild or something. How do you feel about this card, our armies?
Romor's Reckoning. It's interesting card, but you probably win the game before you cast it most of the time.
Yeah, you'll either end the game or it will. Yeah, it'll sit in your hand and lose you the game, just because it's so expensive. Even if we are ramping, we've got 3 ramp cards in here, but in 100 cards, it's probably just not going to happen with these resource optimizing devices, and that's the only ramp we've got. The Immortal Tears isn't really ramp; it's more deck thinning. And the other one, what's it called? Shard Call isn't also not really ramp. So I'm really debating on getting rid of the Shard Calls right now, just because I feel like they don't do too much.
I mean, the equipment for them, I think, tutors the resources from your deck instead, but you probably have other slots to use that equipment.
To be doing. Yeah. I like the Immortal Tears and the resource optimizing device just because I can cast them with either a blood or a diamond shard, and they're both fix me, and this one will ramp me. So you could probably reduce these, but I still do like them in here personally. Most of the rest of this stuff looks like it's all right. We didn't talk about every card in this deck because again, we're building a 100-card deck.
Probably can move Withering Touch out. With the ability to save multiple versions of a deck, you can probably have a more discard heavy version if your opponent is actually playing like things that you need to discard before they resolve.
That's true. Very true. Let's see what else is in this. We've got Awaken. We spoiled this a while back. Create 2 random Necrotics with Shift and put them into play. Yeah, that's pretty good. That's pretty awesome. This is a card I would like to be able to copy or play a couple of times, or maybe splash in a Sapphire or something. Grim Summons. Put up to 2 troops with cost 3 or less from your crypt into play. Yeah, I guess that's an okay one of as well, because by that time we should have troops in our crypt that we can play that will, you know, like Paladin of Necropolis or something like that. Let's see, what else could we do in here? I'm not seeing too many other things. We'll probably end up cutting some of these artifacts. We'll probably cut the Bottle Vitae. I like the Bottle Vitae. It pushes us through the deck. It gets us maybe where we need to go. It's easy to cast. It gains us health, which is what the Cleric wants to do. It gives us charges, but I just feel like probably Immortal Tears and Resource Optimizer are probably going to do more work for us. Armies, out of these 3 cards, which one would you get rid of?
I only like Bottled Vitae if your charge power is something that you really need to ramp to. Like this deck, it's 2 charges every time. It's not really...
Yeah, it's not really...
Like, the extra charge doesn't do much for us.
Let's see, what else can we do here? We're at 102. We need to get rid of 2 cards. Let's see if I can refresh the page and get a good glimpse on where our curve is. The curve on here is honestly, it's not great, but it's getting better-ish. Probably our 3-point range is where we really need to take some hits here. We need to get rid of some 3-point cards in order to really kind of smooth this whole thing out. Another thing about playing a 100-card deck is expect to flood often. Expect it to happen. You know, it's just gonna happen. Let's see, what can we get rid of in the 3-point range? I'm not really seeing a lot in the 3-point range. We've got the...
You could probably cut the elegies. You probably don't have to have them. They might be better if you're
Maybe
playing
just go
against
down to
some sort of heavy
Just go down to
removal
one.
PvE encounter, but they're probably not necessary.
Yeah, I mean, it's doing the same... Elegy is doing the same thing that Grim Summons is doing, except Grim Summons does it for 2 troops. But Elegy is much easier to cast. So, I mean, it depends. I mean, do you think you're going to have 2 troops in your graveyard? I'd actually get rid of Grim Summons before I would get rid of Elegy. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, that's fine too. It also lowers the curve.
Right. Smooths things out just a little bit more there. Yeah, like every deck that we build on Deck Build with the Squire, like, you really have to play the deck to really get a feel for, is this good? What should I change? Am I playing things consistently enough? Another card I looked at, a couple of the ones, I looked at Grim Harvester, and we're not really playing a lot of tokens. It feels like this card is much better if we're playing more, some more spiders or something. Something where it is that we're putting spiders into our opponent's deck if we want this Sapphire.
This deck probably plays better with some Pact of Pains too, if you can afford them. Like,
right.
If you're anytime you're playing a deck that can gain a tremendous amount of life, having a way to sink that life into card advantage is always going to be good.
Yeah, and at $1.15, that's a reasonable price. It's actually probably better than the gold price. The gold price is pretty ridiculous on it. 22,000. It seems like a pretty high price, hefty price for gold on that one. Yeah. I mean, I feel okay about this deck. It should be fun to play. I mean, you're going to play PvE to begin with, so it's kind of like, let's play 100 cards and see if we can make it work. I mean, that's really what we're doing here.
Like, my cleric deck, the way I have fun is I'm playing King Lodegon's Call, but that's a legendary and a low drop rate from one of the dungeons. But I'm using the equipment that has cleric allegiance, and you basically get double spirits. So it's fun, it's ridiculous, but you can only have 1 copy in your deck, so it's kind of super random. If you ever actually draw it.
I wanted to point out before we close out the episode is that we have Angel of Glory in here, and the first thing I looked at this card is what I usually say, which is, if this costs 6 or more, it better win me the game type of thing. And how easy is it going to be to cast this? And Armiesofmordor pointed out that every time something dies, as long as we have 3 diamond threshold in play, there's a chance that this just may cast from our deck. Just straight up cast it out of our deck. So that makes it much, much more playable, especially in a 100-card deck. As soon as we get that, we just have to be aware that we want to have that 3 diamond threshold if we have a prioritization that we're going to make. We want to get to double blood and double diamond to play all of our cards. But if we have a choice, we need to get to that 3rd diamond threshold at some points in time, so that way there's a good chance that we can get this guy into play. So, just one other thing to think about when you're looking at this deck. So, this is like the largest... we set a record tonight because this is the largest deck on Deck Build with the Squire that I think I built, because I think I didn't...
Never built the Jankbot deck?
Yeah, I don't think we ever built the Jankbot deck. I think we looked at some, and I just hated it so much that I just never did it. So, it's basically like the Salt Shaker deck is what I think the other podcast calls it. The 5 shards the 2 turns ahead podcast, they call it the Salt Shaker deck, because every time you lose to it, it's like shaking some salt into your wounds. So, you know, because it's like, this shouldn't work. You should be flooding, or you should be, you know, you should be starved for resources, or you should be flooding. One of those 2 things, because you have 150 cards. So,
Some people never played against Battle of Wits, I guess.
I guess. So tonight on Decking with the Squire, we talked about the new changes coming with Hex. We got a lot of polishing that's gone on. We also talked about Hex getting put on Steam and how that may or may not change the player base. Hopefully it opens up the game to more people and gets the word out to more people, and we can play with them. Again, if you're hanging out here live with us, stick around till after the show, because we do a draft giveaway after the show. And let's see, what else did we talk about? We talked about the 5 Shards Singleton Wild Cup tournament, where there's 250 packs that they're trying to give away, not to one person but to multiple people. So if you got some time tomorrow, why not just stop out? That should be a great time. Singleton format, so you can only have one of any card in your deck. That includes resources, so do keep that in mind when you're submitting your deck to make it easier for them, so that way they don't have to kick it back to you and be like, this is a legal deck. And of course, I had my friend and colleague Armies of Mordor back on, so thanks again, Armies of Mordor, for coming on. And that's pretty much it for the show tonight. So until next time, this is Aaron Squire. I can't even talk today. Until next time, this is Aaron Squire signing off, saying God bless you and your families trying to race too much, and Armies of Mordor saying...
Signing off.